1, 2, 3.
Tag Me In Podcast, back again with another episode. You're joined by myself, Ola.
And also Anton.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got an interesting episode topic today.
Interesting topic.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. You know what? So I've always kind of had this conversation in passing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, let's kind of go in. So today's kind of topic is on book smart and street smart. I don't want to say book smart versus street smart because it's not really a battle. It's more, I think, that kind of balance between both. But where it kind of stemmed from is I have these kind of conversations with people and we kind of speak about the future and how we want to raise our kids and life and private school and that sort of thing. And then, private education and school comes into the conversation. And then from there, it's, want to send our kids to private school, give them the best you can. Education, give them the best you can afford, give them better than what you had. And then that kind of question creeps in, being, they're going to be book smart, but would they gain and have a lot of the street smarts? And the reason why it kind of comes to mind is I've got kind of relatives and family friends who've been raised in some of the best state schools and private schools. And I can just immediately tell the difference in the way they speak. They speak amazingly, impeccable grammar, absolutely amazing, extraordinarily book smart. We're talking straight A's, 1 or 2 B's, other than that, A's and A stars across the board. But then when they come over to our house for Christmas or for holidays or whatever, they just kind of, you can tell they're not from around these parts.
You're not from around
here. You're not from around here. What bits you? You can just kind of, and again, not to say there's anything wrong with that, but I just I've sort of noticed and picked up on little cues and things that I get worried about.
Yeah? Why worried?
So it's more just, the worry comes from the awareness.
Okay.
So put these people in a room, give them a written exam, they'll smash it.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. Put them in a real life environment where being street smart comes into play.
Yeah.
And it's a different story. And the reason why it is of concern is for that very reason, is that the reality of life after school, college, education is not always going to be you sitting down and writing written exams. The reality is you're in real life situations where sometimes you need to have your wits about you and be aware of what's going on in your environment, being able to recognize danger.
Yeah.
Not to say that just because you're book smart, you obviously don't have common sense or you can't see it.
I read it in a book once.
Yeah, I read it in a book to do this, but a lot of the time, some things, like a lot of what you learn, and when I say street smart, I don't literally mean being on the road and just being literally on road. It is more, I guess,
half an ounce. Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, it's more that. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's more that kind of like
10 racks.
Urban knowledge. I think a lot. I don't want to say common sense because, again, being book smart doesn't mean you don't have common sense. But a lot of it is environment and just being experienced in what you see. So, for example, I could be walking down the road. I hear a lot of commotion.
What's that?
I see stuff. Yeah, that I'm like, no, let me mind my own business and go about my way or something. Whereas when I've been with those family friends, it's like, what's going on? I'm like, no, you don't.
Guys, can you please calm down? There's no need for this commotion.
I'm like, it's not an experiment. It's not a school experiment where you go and see. Like, this is real life where you could genuinely get hurt. Why are we going there? And I guess, I kind of want us to sort of obviously unpick kind of like all the different sort of elements. So that being said, would you say you're more street smart or book smart? Or do you think you have a good balance?
I'm a product of my environment. I grew up in East London.
Come on.
I had to have my wits about me. And I would say I'm street smart, but then through adult life, I became book smart. So my primary... It's weird because as we talk about this, my first thought is it's almost fear that creates the street smart element. So the fear was the element of my mum being worried. Oh, be careful. If you're... Stuff like this. If you're going out, don't have your mobile phone on show. Yeah. Or if you're at the ATM, make sure you put your money in your wallet before you step away. Like, all these little things are fear-based things which kind of reflect what happens in society today, where if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, someone's going to take advantage of you. So are you armed enough to combat that? Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd say it's fear-based though.
If we lived in a society where everyone was calm, like, oh, sorry, you dropped £5 on the floor and gave it back to you.
But I wouldn't say like when I go ATM, for me, I'm not scared. I'm like, I just don't.
But
wanna get robbed,
this is
you know?
why I'm, because like to the guy to the all right, so you're complaining about, was it your cousins or whoever they may be?
Let's just say
Let's
Michael.
say Michael. Let's say Michael lives in a world or a town where none of that happens, so he doesn't know it really exists. So he doesn't feel like he needs to become streetwise. However, because of where we grew up, we understand. It's mad when you think about it,
Yeah,
but and that's what I'm trying to say. It's like a fear sort of thing because it might not be fear, but it's like the reality of where you live means you have to arm yourself in a certain way. Michael might know about the dangers, read it on the news, read it in a book. He knows about the dangers, but he still might be able to defend himself in that situation because he did 14 years of taekwondo or jiu-jitsu or something like that. Like, he might be ready, but he doesn't know that people will actually take advantage of you if they see opportunity.
Yeah, and that's you touched on a point that I wanted to get on later on, which was opportunists.
Yeah,
I feel in certain environments you just tend to find a lot more opportunists as well. So say Michael did lose his wallet or drop £10 in that kind of high class environment, he's more likely to receive that in the post with a letter and his money. Good evening, Michael. I enclose your wallet with £5 plus £10 interest, which you would have lost, as you lost your wallet. Please do take care. If that ends, it's gone. Even identity is gone. Fraud.
Free Oyster card. What?
And I feel like in those environments where it isn't the great environment, you find a lot more opportunists as well who are more willing to take advantage because they're in some might be in a deprived area where opportunities do not come often. So when they do come, people are there ready and waiting to take the leap. And it's a tough one because both have value.
This is why I was saying it's a fear-driven thing, because a lot of the lessons that you've learned in terms of being street smart, it came from someone else, isn't it? You didn't actually just, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It came from someone being worried that something might happen to you because of where you are.
You watch and you learn. Like, you see
Mumsy,
things happen. You see
brother,
mum and dad saying, come
sister,
home after school immediately.
Yeah,
you
call
hear
me
about people getting robbed and all these different things. Even sort of away from the actual street, stuff like money management and friendship, the lessons you learn in real life will never be the same, or you can't really pick those up from books.
Oh, no. Practicality of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, with certain things, I'm like, okay, a book can teach you certain things, but to really experience it, you have to actually do it and live through it, even away from being book and street. Just certain things, a book can only teach you so much, and you have to kind of go through the motions yourself, taking that action to really live that experience.
That's true.
This book told me to lift 50 kg for 3 sets, 15 reps. I did that, cool. But when I did it, I learned that I felt like this. And the book couldn't really explain that to me because it's a book. It just gave me the steps, written steps, the practical aspects. But I had to kind of go for it to learn that actually there's a bit more. When I read this book about making this recipe, it said an hour and a half. But in reality, it took 2.5 hours. The book didn't talk about sometimes in life things happen that kind of delay it. The oven wasn't working, the scales, this and that. And there's so much to that. And having sort of said that, if you had the choice, not that if you had the choice, I guess, how would you look to raise your kids if you had the option to choose from private education? So they're getting the best of the best, but you know that they're very sheltered. Yeah. And you know that we live in a world where that's not the reality of it might be of that area. Okay. But in the wider context, that's not the reality. But then you also have the option of maybe raising your kids in, I don't want to say poverty because that doesn't necessarily define street smarts, but in a less nice environment.
So I've got the money, kids, I want the best education possible. If the best education is private school, so be it. Because it's smaller classrooms, it's more that close interaction at the sacrifice of them being in what we're talking private school, or we're talking boarding school as well. I get because private school they could still go. School,
they could still be let's say boarding school. So
boarding school.
You're just
they're there.
You're just like
they're there in Cambridgeshire somewhere.
Yeah, all they know is Cambridge. No,
it's not Cambridge, Cambridgeshire. You know them ones like
yeah. Holiday always in like France and the chalet. All them ones with the Bentley. So they don't really
that type of life.
Really like
that's you know what. from my upbringing, I probably want them to be, because when they come home, and when I say home, where I was born, raised, like, I don't want them to be, oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh. I want them to be like, we're going to shop.
Yeah.
And they can feel confident enough to walk through the streets of London, wherever be. But there's the other flip side, that there is so many lessons that you can get from being in boarding school at such a young age. I never went boarding school. I went to a normal public state school. But I'm sure that you learn to deal with other people because you're in such a confined space, depending on what it looks like in the future. If you're the only token ethnic person in boarding school, you deal with like the bullying, the hardship and all that. So that also kind of like makes you a stronger person, we hope. And then also the other side of it, of the connections that you might build, a close forged friendship from being in that environment. So boarding school has its negative. It's taking my child away from home. I'm not going to be able to embark the personal life lessons that I've experienced because they're away. So the only time I see them is half term or this or that. But education wise, they're getting the best of the best. Thinking about it as I'm saying it out loud, I don't know if I want that for my kids.
What, that boarding?
That boarding lifestyle. Because I feel like you want the best for them education wise, but there's only, and I guess it goes into your whole topic. Booksmart is amazing, but I feel like I have a duty as a father to share whatever I'm learning or what I've learned to my kids when I can. So even the little aspects of me reading to them, or me and my child debating about a topic, and it's not in a debate setting, it's real life. So there's no teacher called, no guys, time's up.
This is it, like this.
It's no, when you have a real long talk with someone, it's not always going to go your way, and there's no middle person, being referee going, well, that was an excellent point, Charles.
One to Gryffindor.
Gryffindor wins.
No, it's, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because I've kind of lived that to a degree, in that I lived in Nigeria for 3 years. It was boarding, so it was, like you said, that aspect of, fair enough, it was boarding, it was private. This is in Naira, people, don't worry. Ain't got it like that, not yet anyway. And like you said, the learning there was in depth. You're in that environment, in an enclosed environment. You're having to share. Things are being stolen from you. Friendships break down. Money goes down. Resources go down. And you're having to live that reality day-to-day life. Even taking it away from that kind of school concept. You're in a world where I had to become an adult as a boy. I was like 11 going on 24, because you're looking after yourself. You're having to understand how to manage money. Food, rations, that's all on you. If you run out, people that were there that were asking and eating my stuff, when I ran out, I didn't have access to theirs. No, this is mine, Allah. You had yours. But I shared mine with you. Okay.
And
in the real world now, and I was like, is this how it is? And I was so glad for that exposure, because from then I just learned that I'm in this world on my own. It sounds kind of harsh, but I was like, okay, cool. Let me just be aware. Don't always kind of give everyone everything. Make sure you look out for number one. Know who your friends are. Know who aren't your friends. Know how to cook, how to clean, how to just look after yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. There are so many different aspects that I picked up. But again, to be fair, that was Nigeria, where it's like,
cause I guess boarding school here, you probably get
it'll be
dinner.
It'll all be done.
Dinner,
for you.
5 o'clock dinner, guys.
But even just street smart, again, a lot of it I think is more just like being able to look after yourself. So I know so many grown adults now who didn't necessarily go private school, but they're so accustomed to mummy and daddy doing everything. Bro, I remember reading some article. This 36-year-old man, his mum and dad still pay his phone bill, and I'm like, you have a family. What are you doing? I'm like, it's not even like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, I know people who are fully grown, and I saw this at university. I don't know if you saw it as well. And even until now, where people struggle to cook, don't know how to cook, clean, look after themselves. And I'm like, if your parents went away for a holiday for like 3 weeks, would you still be alive when they came back?
Deliveroo.
I didn't know how to open the
Deliveroo, bro.
And that's what, and again, even on that, I think...
All is ready, you see that?
No, fam, this is tunnels. All these tunnels, that's what I'm going to get into. On that, I feel like it's good and it's bad. It's good in the sense of these platforms are there to help us, but it's bad in the sense of you are so dependent on outside sources to do for you what you should be able to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with ordering a curry or a pizza or whatever every once in a while. If that is your default day to day, how is that survival? In the like,
it might be smart.
Is it?
It might be it might be leverage. It might
it's
be
convenient.
Yeah.
But again, every day, and is this what you're going to teach your kids? When you need stuff, when you're hungry, they'll do it for you. You don't need to learn. I'm not saying don't do it. My thing is more have the skill. By all means, let's eat pizza or whatever every day. Lovely. We wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But if that pizza company breaks down, if we run out of money, do we know how to make it ourselves? Do we know how to make the dough? Do we know how to just look after ourselves? Having those skills. Like there are people that I know who they live at home, don't pay rent, don't pay mortgage, no bills, nothing, on fairly decent salaries, and then they're still sort of struggling financially. And I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you were to move into your own place, how would you do it? I'm worried that you might struggle, because if you're struggling now,
that's probably
like
the best way to learn.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's that point about deep end as well. So going into the deep end of life.
Yep.
Like no one's here to help you. You're on your own. How are you going to figure it out? And I think in those environments, that's when you change, because you don't have a choice. It's like you do or you die.
Yeah.
You do or you die, and you just need to learn how to survive. Just get on with it.
Because like, what are you doing? Are you sending your kids to boarding school?
It's a tough. You know what? I'm in between. I think, like you said, you want to give them the best education, the best thing that you have access to.
Yeah.
So I'd want to send them to the highest state school, if affordable, private school. Having sort of said that, I think I definitely put a lot of time and attention in showing them the other side of life. Once you finish working, or this is where your cousins live, we're going to stay here for this weekend. You're going to hang out with them. You're going to go and get chicken and chips. Chicken and chips? Father, what's that? You see, there's £2. When you go there, just remember what, listen, all you need to know is boss man. Boss man? Who's my boss man? Go in there and just say, boss man, what are you telling me? And then you learn. Dad, these are amazing. And I've lived this, like one of my brethrens, we're still friends. So like, this was back in the day. I think it was at Cancer Research. And then she was like, oh, where do you live? Blah, blah, blah. Took a chicken shop. Fam.
She's like, oh, this is...
It was like...
scrumptious.
She was like, oh my God. Then we were like bantering, and she was like, this is better than the shard. And I'm like, welcome. I'm like, that's boss man right there.
Wow.
Then you know when boss man nices you with the apple. But it's just
kind of drink?
Like, yes. But I think it's just seeing that different aspect. But for me, I definitely want them to be aware of the other side of the tracks.
Yeah.
This is where your cousins live. This is where my old friends live.
It's exposure.
This is North London. This is the real life. This is a community. This is how people...
I think that's the part that maybe something that we can't fully relate to is it's your child. So there's going to be an element where you want to protect them. Yeah. And for that reason of protection, you don't want to expose them to certain scenarios.
I think it depends on the type though. Because I remember I saw this program, I didn't watch it, but I saw the synopsis of this program where this rich guy, I don't know if it was a footballer or whatever he was, like you said, he took his daughter to where he grew up, and then she stayed there for like, I think a week or two to kind of see what her father kind of went through. And then she came back and she was so appreciative because she's grown up with like horse lessons that are like £800 an hour, like kind of cushy lifestyle. And she's like, is this where my dad grew up? And she's like, I appreciate what I have so much more, and I understand why.
Do you not think that could be temporary though as well?
How do you mean?
Because I feel like she needs to continuously be in that sort of environment rather than like
a one-off.
Yeah.
To really appreciate it. And he was like, I just protected you from that because that wasn't nice.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
She's like, Dad, I get it, but I appreciate what you've done and why you work so hard. And I think that's the other element for me as well, is so that in this context, they get to understand why Dad works so hard, why he's up at 6 and we don't see him till 7 or 8 sometimes, or even 11, why he's grafting so hard, and why he's trying to impart these, book skills and the street smarts into us as well, just so we kind of have that balance of knowing the reality of life, but also having the education to push us as far as we can go. It's subjective. It's difficult because I don't think there's a, like, I can't say I look at everyone who's gone private school and whatever and say, yeah, you're 100%, they're amazing, whatever. And I can't say I look at people from the street or whatever and say, oh no, you haven't done well, because I don't think it's based on that. I think obviously it's subjective to each person. Your environment does shape you 100%, like you said, and I think you learn so much from it.
Yeah, I feel so. My view of just school and education, like formal education, is it's necessary in the way that life is set up. You know, in order to progress and to do a career field, you need GCSEs, you need A levels, you need your degree, and then you need your work experience, and then you're in a job. And it's great if my child is going to go in that direction. If my child is going to hold on to whatever gift they have, they might not need to be so heavily focused on the whole education thing, the formal education. And my view with formal education is it's a very small aspect of your life, of what you've learned. If there was a pie chart, in my belief, I feel like formal education probably accounts for 35%. And the rest of it, the 65%, is just life. Like the amount of stuff that you learn and you do day to day is completely different from what you learned from school. Like our conversation is based on our English lessons, but there's people who didn't go to school and still talk.
I know,
zero GCSEs. You know, you got people who are like 40, 60 years old, and at that time, education was nothing. It was about just gaining, making money, providing for the home. But you still have a conversation with them. So it's like, at what point does formal education really hold its weight?
I think, like you said, it's entirely dependent on career aspects and aspirations.
But you can't predict that, can you?
I think at a basic level, being able to read, write, speak, that kind of basic stuff. For me, up until, I say, end of secondary school. Yeah, because when I think about it, since secondary school, maybe a bit of college, what have I really used in my working career from, you know? So I'm like, it is dependent. If you want to be a doctor or dentist, certain vocations, you will need to get that education. You need to kind of get those certificates, qualifications, and be able to say, I have achieved this, I'm qualified. Whereas I think for a lot of other jobs, like you said, a lot of life is kind of that street smart. And when I think about it, I'm like, if I had it my way, to be honest, I'd have in education, if you know, you got math, science, blah, 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 I'd have street smart, or I'd call it life, school of life.
There's something
and
like that.
Would take it will weigh more than, or just as much as a lot of the other lessons. So I'm like, in life, you're going to need these lessons way more than you're going to do trigonometry.
I think it's very difficult, obviously, to plan out your future, your own future, and then also the future of your kids. So all you really have control over is what you can do, right? So thinking about the question that you first went into about will I send them to private school, state school, boarding school, I'm willing to try them all. But I also have to be very aware of what's happening with my child. You know, if there's certain times where I'm looking at my child, I'm like, why are you trying to sweep with the broom upside down with the handle? And if they're doing this for 3 years, then there needs to be a moment, and this is a question that I'm going to throw in your direction. If you're starting to realize that your kid's is a little bit backwards, like he doesn't know how to do the practical thing.
Is this in private?
In private school. No, in boarding school. Okay. Will you pull your child out of boarding school? And give them the school of life? If
they're 17, 18 and they're...
No, younger. 14.
That's still concern. I'd be concerned. If it was in private school, I'm like, okay, cool, I get it. If it's boarding school, I'd be worried because I'm like, I'm paying, like, come on. But I get your point. The concerns there.
Your daughter's smart.
The concerns there.
Your son is smart, but...
I'm no... I don't know if I'll pull them out, but I think there'd be either lessons at home, but the lessons are coming from somewhere. Like, that is concern. I'm like, you can be as smart as you want. You could, like... You need to
come home and half the plate's still like unwashed and there's
like,
stains.
They're like trigonometry. I'm like, no. No semicircle, full circle. I think, it's tough because, you know, they're getting that education. They're rubbing shoulders with the right type of people that will be able to help them, and they'll be able to help each other in the next couple of years. And now but it's also
What about if you witness your child is lacking this element of empathy, and they are kind of looking down on others? So you somehow go to an event in, let's call it Stokey, and they're like, oh, this place, wow, I will never, and you see them literally sidestep someone in such a disrespectful way.
I think that for me, and I'm glad you mentioned it, is one of my potential top concerns, because I'd like to believe I will raise you to be an empathetic person, to be respectful of others, and to not look down on anyone. Which is why I've said to myself, I like the idea of kind of taking them to like soup kitchens and volunteering, blah blah blah. If they're still like that, it's difficult, because I feel like you can only do so much as a parent.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot, where people that I've grown up with, or I've watched as like family friends grow up, and I've just looked at them like, man, your family has it good. Like, your parents raise you well. They give you freedom. You guys can go out. You've got balance. Their parents haven't overspoilt you, or they haven't deprived you, or, you've had the good balance based on my perspective from what I've seen, obviously. And then they still just turn out to be, I don't want to say dickheads, but they're just like, I'm like, you haven't done yourself service. You haven't done your parents any justice for the hard work they've put in. And at that same token, I've seen families where I'm just like, I'm worried, like, deprived in every area, education, love, family, but you're so balanced. And I think there's only so much parents and people can take blame for and accountability for. You've done your part. You've raised your child. You've done your best. You've given them the values and the traits and things to value and cherish in life. You've given them the tools.
Yeah.
If they've taken that and they've done a madness, there's only so much you can do. It's so hard. Honestly, it's so.
But like, if you realise it at the age of 14, is that a time to?
It's at that point,
change the
it's
situation.
At that point where it's kind of like, you think about clay, it's soft while you mold it. Then after a while, it starts to harden. And I feel like that sort of age is kind of like, you got to be really firm, because it's starting to harden up. So I think there's definitely hope at that age, 100%.
But are you changing the situation? Are you going to
if
drop them from boarding school, and then they're going to hate you? Why are you moving me to this? And then
if I
resentment.
know, that's fine. If I know that, or if I'm confident that making that decision will improve them in that area, we're making that decision. Hate me, resent me, cool. In a few years' time, you might understand. If not, I fucked up. I made a mistake. Guess what? I'm a human. And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
People make mistakes. What can we learn from these mistakes? What lessons can we learn? I think that's the most important thing. Because I kind of remember reading this article, and it speaks about the hospital industry versus the aviation industry in that. So you know how how airplanes have got black boxes. What they kind of found was that when a plane would crash, they wouldn't really do anything. But then they were like, no, this is kind of mad. What can we do? They started to get engineers to talk to pilots about how to really finesse the plane, what to do, checklists. They put the black box in, and they tried to basically just improve the aircraft and the airplane and the aviation industry. Whereas in hospitals, there is this known thing of because people go to hospitals to die, no one says anything about it. But more people die that shouldn't be dead, if that makes sense. There are so many people that you're like, no. We should have caught that a long time ago. But then because you came here to die, they're like, they were going to die anyway. So you have this thing where people tend to avoid and dismiss, and other ones where they tend to kind of look at the systematic errors. And I think it's something the aviation industry's kind of policy and guidance is something that can be applied to everyday life. If something goes wrong, let's not hide it and blame where they've grown up. Let's take accountability. Let's actually look at what went wrong. Was it what we said? Was it the time we didn't spend with the kids? Was it the environment? Is it the individual? Let's look at what led us to where we are now. Let's be open and honest, and let's just deal with the situation.
Yeah.
And not even in every context, I feel all people, and I've been guilty of this, where people can easily just blame something or someone else. It was the bus's fault I was late.
Yeah.
Or the dog ate it, kind of thing. At some point we have to kind of be like, you know what? I effed up. Let me
Yeah.
analyze the situation. It wasn't anyone else's fault. It was my fault.
What can I do?
What can I do next time to prevent that from happening, to improve the culture or the behavior of this situation? And just understanding the culture. I think the culture thing is big as well, because it's the way you kind of look and analyze. So if I have got a child who looks down on people, have I maybe looking down on people myself unknowingly? And my kids are just copying me? Because people sometimes forget that a lot of the times children are a reflection of their parents. Like when I deeped it and I was looking at me and my siblings, I was like, yeah, that's definitely mum.
No, the characteristics.
Me and him are dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is mad.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, because what the kids see, monkey see, monkey do. They see mum and dad every day,
Acting
or like
in one particular way.
and so they kind of
Pick it
pick
up.
up those
Yeah.
tricks. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
We all have to kind of take responsibility, not even just for our own kids, for like nieces, nephews, cousins, and relatives, and understand that we all have a part to play in kind of like shaping that mindset, that kind of book smart, street smart. And it's also like action as well. So I used to tell my younger brothers, you guys need to start reading. Bearing in mind, I'm reading on the bus, so they're not seeing it. But then now I come home and I read at home. They come into my room while I was reading. Weekend while I was reading. And then after a while, it was like, oh, what are you reading? I'm reading this. When are you done with it? Well, I'd walk to my brother's room and I'm like, this guy's reading this. I'm like, oh. And I'm like,
Sorry,
okay.
my bad.
I mean, and I think I've learnt from that action plays a big part in it, and imparting a lot of those street and book smart skills. And also, you can just teach them. Grow up in a private school. Well, this is it where I grew up. This is how it was. You don't believe me? Come, let's go. I'm going to get this guy to rob you. You're going to see. You're going to see Wagwan.
You're mad, you know.
Yeah, no, potentially. Yeah.
Man's just gonna walk up to a guy.
Experience.
Hey,
What you got for me, fam? I beg your pardon. What you what?
my kid's gonna be there in 15 minutes. Can you just roll up on them and just
Don't stab him. Just just words.
just he's got 2 iPhones. I'm
I
paying the
paid
bill.
for him, so
I'm
I want
paying
it
for the
back.
bill, and I need to cut at least one of them. So
I need to cut at least one.
do your thing, brother, but don't harm him.
You can keep one, but I want the other. Don't harm him. Just words. That's crazy, man.
Street smart. Yeah, like I was saying, I feel like it's definitely a environmental thing. Book smart is important. I think there's so many other elements in life that is important as well.
Yeah.
It's trying to make, I don't know, the serious question is, what do you really want to teach your kid? What's the most important lesson that you want to embark on your children? Is it about being empathetic with others? Is it about aiming for the stars? Is it treating everyone with respect? Is it love? Is it this? But like making sure that whatever option you choose, you're still able to do that. So if it's one of those things of to show them the importance of time between family and whatever, then make sure you're ever present in their life. And maybe boarding school is not that option, because you're sending them far, far away. You're going to see them so many times. So it's that kind of what is really important. It could be a sacrifice thing. You know, I've got uncles who are striving for their kids to, they're thinking about remortgaging the house, moving to this location so they can send their child to private school, because education is everything. But is their child also lacking other things? Do they know what fun is? You know, does your child has this ability to unwind at such a young age? Does all your child know is book, sleep, clean house, book, clean house, book, and that's it. And someone's party. But I can only go once I complete the extra tuition work. And, you know, I guess in the future, your child may be fantastic, literally the smartest person alive. But as we know, like, enjoyment is a key part.
100%.
You know,
Work hard, play hard.
Work hard, play hard. So it's that balance. Are you able to see your child do really well? So one thing I always want is like my kids to come home and share their successes. So it could be, did a mini test and guess who got 95? What? Come on. Hey, that's my G's. My missus be like, nah, that's mine. I'm like, shut up. But it's that wholesome family unit. And I think that's a bit difficult once you start taking your kids out of that equation, where, and it's also an environment where, and this is just me preempting, but in order to send how many kids you want, 2, 3, 4, you need to have like the money. So are both parents is grinding hard. Like, what is a sacrifice? Everything comes with a sacrifice.
100%. And I think, just having that balance. But I think, with boarding school, you lose a lot of that family interaction. Like you said, if you're there saying, hey kids, it's all about family, sticking together. Now go away to that boarding school that's 9 miles away. I don't want to see you for 3 months.
You can, like, got technology. I can FaceTime you.
Yeah.
I'll check it out on Snap.
Hey, come on.
That's just so annoying.
But just like reflecting a lot of those values. Respecting a lot of those.
I think there's definitely a benefit in private school, but I think there's also state schools making so many improvements. And I think the basis of smaller classrooms, more close relationships between pupil and teachers is great. So there might even just be necessary. We're in a location. There's a school literally 25 minutes away. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, live your life.
Yeah. Well, I think one that has been still powerful as well. Actually, I know a lot of parents use is two. One is that they just send their kids to one of the top state schools. So like, okay, it's free, but we know that based on history, all the people that graduate tend to get really high grades because, like you said, small classrooms, quality teacher, 2 teaching assistants. You're getting that one-on-one interaction. Or also, I think another thing that's been very effective is standard school. We're present and we're there for you. Weekends, 1 or 2 hours, maybe even just half an hour, a tutor. Yeah. Because they used to do that for us. This was time ago where they'd get one tutor, then like 6 of us would share. So like our kids, their kids would all kind of share, and it's like, okay, it's quarter of the price. We're all learning and we're all getting good grades. So we're not having to shell thousands of pounds that maybe parents didn't have. It's a couple, being creative. 100 a month, being creative. We're learning with friends. We're more likely to want to do it. It's competition. Oh, you got an A. I got an A star. And we're getting that education. We're learning. But we're also in an environment where we're privy to the streets and having our wits about us and just knowing how to deal with certain situations. If there's an argument or a fight on the bus, knowing how to navigate that. Do I get off from the back? Do I get involved and, potentially stop a serious crime from happening? Just knowing what to do based on the situation.
Because you got to remember, there's people who are street smart, and their response would be to try and stop the fight. Yeah,
Yeah. And because for people, with me as well, there's people I've grown up with. I've just been like, you are so, because you've been thrust into the street environment, you're so street. I'm just like, if you had that book smart, if you had that education, that formal education, winning.
There's an argument though, because like that guy back in Bristol, Street to Boardroom, I remember.
Board to Street.
Sorry,
Street to, what am I saying?
He was on BBC and everything like that. And, his lesson, I think we've heard it a number of times, is no matter your upbringing, you could be on road. You could have been the guy on road, could have gone pen. Yeah. But the business knowledge that you learn from being on the street is the same that could be applied into just a normal business world. You could start your own business and run and do job because you know about marketing, you know about leads, you know everything that's within that. So I think you can still get by just literally being 100% street smart.
Yeah.
You just need to know how to connect the dots.
And a lot of them do. Because the French, I think it's entrepreneur, but I think apparently in French, forget it. I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Scrap that.
Yeah, I'm like, scrap that. But I keep seeing this, like, these like Instagram quotes, and it's like, if you can sell drugs and stuff, like you said, you could run a business. Yeah. Because again, the logistical aspects of it are the same. You understand supply and demand. You understand your customer. You understand product. You understand marketing, how it works. Let's just literally reapply that to a different product.
Because I feel like the one barrier that does exist is this education thing. Like people will be like, this is the requirements. You need this education. And that's why I said, like, I feel if you're creative enough, there's always a way.
Yes.
There's always a way. It's like, you know what? I'm going to make this happen. He said no. He said, I ain't got a degree in business, but listen, I know what I've got. I'm going to prove it to you. And that comes from within. And not everyone's going to have that drive, that focus. Some people might just go on a different path, might actually end up going uni or whatever. it's just the way life is going to be. But the main thing is trying to find, I don't want to say balance because I ain't no parent. And I had a conversation with my mum literally this morning.
Yeah.
I was like, Mum, if you was to go back in time, or if you used to have a kid today, would you change the way that you brought me up?
That's a good question.
And my mum was like, no. I was like, what? So throughout your whole years, my mum had me when she was like 24.
Yeah.
I was like, so from 24 to the age you are now, there's nothing in your life, experiences, or the way you brought me up there, you think, I might change. She said one thing, I would have like done more kind of like family days out sort of thing. That's the one thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, cool. But we did stuff, but I did it later on. I was like, cool, acceptable. But it was just interesting to hear that point. And there's one point that she made as well. She's like, the reason I can say that, because when I compare myself among all the other people that have kids that I grew up with, I'm proud to say you're my son and where you are. And I'm like, you can't really do that comparison thing, but I get it. It's like that sense of I can make the best out of the opportunities I have. So she had me. She was like, what can I do?
We're here now.
We're here now. What can I do? And the whole thing of, she sent me to a normal school. She probably didn't even check Ofsted. She just knew it was close. She was like, education is important. So I had a tutor for like the subjects that I wasn't strong in. So maths, it's weird. Like I always felt like I was good at maths, but apparently not. So I had like tutors, and then, that put me in top set. So there's little things that she was aware of. And I think the key thing, and speaking about my upbringing, when it comes to parenting, I think it's one of those things that you have to just review as you go on.
Yeah.
My mum sat there on parents' evening. Oh, Anton's good at maths, but he's not really applying it. Yeah. Mum's like, okay, what are we gonna do? Creative. Didn't have that much money, but she was creative. She found my tutor. This guy used to work in the post office, and somehow they had a conversation. He was like, yeah, I can tutor your son.
Right, boy.
Creative. She didn't go. There was no Google.
There
was no like these tuition center on the high street. Like, it was nothing. Mum just went, you good at calculating? Yeah. All right. Do you want to? My man was teaching me enough stuff, moving averages, like mode, median, all them things there, range. And it's like, I hope that I can do my kids the same justice, in the sense of witnessing my child go through their progression and making choices that I, at that time, would deem right for them. Yeah. That's all I can 100%.
Do. That's the thing. That's all you can do.
That's all I can do.
What more can you do?
They will probably go, why didn't you? I can't believe you did that. And I have to be like, okay, I hear you. Yeah. Because I went through that same stage with my mum. Oh, like, it would have been nice if I was taken here a bit more. Yeah. But at the same time, now I'm a bit mature and I'm older. I'm like, she was a human. She was learning. She was going through her process. Whatever. As long as I know that she tried her best by me.
That's it. That's enough, man. Because people do their best with what they have.
Yeah.
And it's just being respectful and accepting that. It is what it is. No, I definitely, I think it's forever like one of those ongoing kind of conversations with parents and individuals themselves as well. It's just about environment and understanding the balance and ways to look at both aspects of being book smart, being street smart, and just applying that to everyday life. But no, we'll sort of bring that one to a close. But as always, people, hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to kind of be part of the conversation, then reach out to us, Tag Me Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. We can be emailed at info@tagmepodcast.co.uk. And until next time, keep it locked.